What's going on, everybody? Welcome on in the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Seatman, and you know I had to do it. I had to get you guys what Colin Cowherd had to say on J.J. McCarthy's debut. He's already starting the walk-back takes he had from 48 hours ago. And then also on the second half of today's show, just some more takeaways from the game. The offensive line actually looked fantastic outside of Justin School. Then we got to give some more love to our guy, Jordan Mason. So we'll dive into all that on today's show. But if you guys could help us reach 60,000 subscribers here on YouTube, we're closing in on our next milestone. We just need 425 more of you guys to hit that subscribe button today. So if you guys are watching and aren't subscribed just yet, change it. Hit that subscribe button. We post multiple videos a day around your Minnesota Vikings, and it feels like a special year. So if you guys want to come along for the ride, hit that subscribe button today. All right, let's dive into it. What Colin Cowherd had to say about J.J. McCarthy. Now, Cowherd, this whole offseason has been ragging on the guy. You know, he's been going back and saying, what's his special trait? I don't see it. He's been saying he's had trusted sources texting him, them saying they don't understand why the Vikings are going to J.J. McCarthy. At the end of the day, why I was a big believer in J.J., one, because of the person and player he is, and also number two, because of smartest quarterback mind in the National Football League, Kevin O'Connell. He trusted him, but Cowherd's already starting to walk back his takes. This is what he had to say on J.J. McCarthy's debut, saying he looked as bad as any quarterback I watched this weekend for 2.5 quarters. Tell me if I'm wrong on this, but J.J. McCarthy reminds me of Baker Mayfield. Baker plays with a lot of emotion, and when Baker is feeling it, he can get into a zone. I'll tell you this right now, Colin. You are wrong. Suggesting that J.J. McCarthy is an emotional player, I think is ludicrous. Because J.J. McCarthy, he plays with passion, not emotion. I'm sure Cowherd just saw that final clip when he ran that final touchdown in, him getting up, flexing, getting excited. And obviously, J.J. had a very up and down game, but he just stays steady. He never gets too low. He never gets too high. And that's what makes him so special. Because when it is late in the fourth quarter, or when you just get to the fourth quarter and you're having a terrible game, sometimes it's tough for these young quarterbacks or just quarterbacks in general to just flip that switch and turn it around. JJ just stays here. He just stays steady. Like, even when he was at the all-time high yesterday in the fourth quarter, he was still able to relax, take a deep breath, execute, and JJ turned to Aaron Jones and the rest of his teammates in the huddle right before the fourth quarter began. So this was still when it was 17-6. The team was struggling, and he just looked at his guys and said, where else would you rather be? And he explained it in his post-game press conference, just making the point that, hey, we're here. Everybody needs to put a smile on their face. We're in this battle together, and that's just being a leader. Like, this kid is 22 years old, and he just put on that performance. Also, the first player in NFL history to have 2 10-plus yard passing touchdowns and a 10-plus yard rushing touchdown in the fourth quarter. No other player has ever done that. J.J. McCarthy did in his debut. But Cowherd also had to say this. They were protecting him in the first half, talking about Kevin O'Connell and the play calling. The first start, road game, didn't take a lot of snaps in the preseason. Then he hits one throw to Justin Jefferson, and from that point forward, we were watching a completely different quarterback. And don't cover up that JJ take now, Colin. Because we remember what you said about him. Like, this is it's so funny. And even if you go back there in the first 3 quarters and you see everybody tweeting about McCarthy, oh, the Vikings should have kept Arnold. They should have kept Aaron Rodgers. It's just ludicrous. And now people are trying to cover up those takes saying, oh, JJ just flipped that switch. He's a streaky player is what Colin was calling him. I disagree. I just think he got comfortable. I think the first 3 quarters were a feel-out for him. And again, these were his first 3 quarters being a starter in the National Football League. On the road, no Jordan Addison, no Christian Darrisaw. And people are still moving the goalpost saying, oh, the Vikings would have been better yesterday with Sam Darnold and Aaron Rodgers. No shit. Those guys have played hundreds of games in the NFL before. This was his first start. And if you're going to criticize this kid's first 3 quarters as the youngest starting quarterback in the National Football League and just kind of discredit what he did in the fourth quarter and just kind of chalk it up to he got hot, I think it's an awful take. I think it's a ludicrous take, and I can't stand it. But also, as a Vikings fan, I like it because it's going to keep that chip on number 9's shoulder. But Cowherd did say this. I have never been a huge J.J. McCarthy fan. I don't see what trait. I hear he is a winner, and he's got some alpha, has pretty good feet. What you saw in the second half does feel a little like Baker Mayfield, an emotional player. And when he gets rolling, he can have some real zip on the ball. Cowherd was just stunned in his podcast after the game. You just saw his facial reactions. Like, he couldn't believe what he was seeing out there. And, what I was saying about people moving the goalpost, just wait. It is going to happen where I got a feeling JJ is going to light it up on Sunday night against the Atlanta Falcons. And then the conversation is going to be, oh, he's got Kevin O'Connell. He's got Justin Jefferson. Sam Darnold just threw 35 touchdowns. Won 14 games. I could play quarterback in that system. They won't give this kid the credit because it all comes down to what they thought of him coming out of the draft. And people nowadays have such a tough time just admitting they were wrong. It is truly like this J.J. McCarthy just derangement syndrome that these people have going on where they can't just admit, yeah, I was wrong about the kid coming out. I didn't see it at Michigan. Obviously, they didn't ask him to do a whole lot. I didn't see the intangibles, but you really saw it last night. You saw the intangibles. You saw the mental toughness. We saw this guy grow up right before our own very eyes, and people are still trying to move the goalpost. I'm not saying you should just declare and stamp J.J. McCarthy as a top 10 quarterback right now, but if you weren't thoroughly impressed with what he did yesterday, you're just being a hater. Like, just straight up, you're hating on the kid. You don't have the stones to admit you were wrong about him. And it's just crazy how he just continues to just get these slight disrespects from all these, national media heads that have these massive platforms. But I'll ask you guys this. What is your biggest takeaway from J.J. McCarthy's debut? For me personally, and by far, it's just his mental toughness. But again, we knew this. We've been telling you about this for months here on the channel. So my biggest takeaway is just his mental toughness, his ability to bounce back and just flip that switch in the fourth quarter. You guys, let me know your thoughts. What is your biggest takeaway from J.J. McCarthy's debut? Now, coming up next here on the program, we're going to be diving into more takeaways from Week 1 versus the Chicago Bears, specifically the offensive line. So we'll dive into that here in a second. But before we do so, I got to give a massive shout-out to today's presenting sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. Now, you and I make decisions every single day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. If you guys download the Prize Picks app today, plug in that promo code CLNS. We'll hook you guys up with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Now, Prize Picks is super simple to play. All you got to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. And if you guys get your picks right, you could cash in. It's also the best way to get action on sports in more than 40-plus states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. And it's super user-friendly, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. PrizePicks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. Now, for Week 2 of the football season, I already got a lineup cooked up. I'm going to take the more on Lamar Jackson and Justin Fields rushing yards. And they also have a max discount play for Travis Kelce. Going to take this more on half a receiving yard. I got the Vikings stopping the run this weekend. Sunday Night Football against the Atlanta Falcons. Going to fade Bijan Robinson and take his less. But if you guys want to fade those picks or ride with those picks, just do so at PrizePicks and download the PrizePicks app today. Plug in that promo code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. A shout out to PrizePicks for sponsoring today's show. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, I'm going to close the book here on the Chicago Bears Week 1 matchup. Obviously, we'll still talk about, some players and everything throughout the week, but really just put my final thoughts on this, unbelievable game for the Minnesota Vikings. Probably the, my favorite game I have ever watched. So I want to start off here with a tweet from Nick Olson. Does a great job on Twitter covering the Vikings. He's always got 6 stats, so if you guys want to hit him up, I suggest you do so. But the Vikings revamped interior offensive line, only allowed 1 pressure last night. The last game the Vikings interior offensive line didn't allow multiple pressures was Week 8 of 2020. I mean, we have been praying for this moment for the last 5 seasons, and we finally have it. We finally have a good interior offensive line. I mean, the amount of times, the amount of off seasons we've been just clamoring. Can we go spend a first-round pick on a lineman and it work out? Can we go spend big money? Well, the first-round pick this past season, Donovan Jackson, he looked pretty damn good. Shout out to D-Jack. An unbelievable performance in Week 1 against the Chicago Bears. PFF gave him a 74.3 overall grade, a run block grade of 66.9, and the pass blocking grade of 88.1 with a goose egg. 0 pressures allowed in 56 snaps. But what about your big money free agency spending guys? Willie Fries looked pretty solid. Could see him playing a better performance in Week 2, no doubt. But he graded out pretty well. 60.9 overall grade, 55.6 in the run block, pass block 74.1, and he allowed 1 pressure. So you allowed 1 pressure between your 2 guards, and also the new center you picked up. He looked amazing. Also, Ryan Kelly, just the physicality he has is unbelievable. I was going back and watching some of the All-22. He just absolutely mauls people, and he graded out very well. 0 pressures allowed, all 3 grades in the mid-70s. And also, if you guys notice, all those pass blocking grades were fantastic out of the 3 interior offensive linemen. So this is a massive shout out to Kwesi, because we talk about this guy not being able to draft. Donovan Jackson might be a home run pick here in round 1. But also, check out this graphic. So on the left side is the win rate on every single pass rushing snap going up the left, and then it's PFF grades going down the right, and the Vikings are the best in the league by far. The highest pass rush win rate percentage for the offensive lineman, and they also had the second best PFF grade. So got to give credit to this offensive line. They were mauling, but you also got to give credit to this guy right here, Jordan Mason. Ran his tail off last night. He averaged 3.86 yards after contact. That's the highest a running back has posted in a game for the Vikings since head coach Kevin O'Connell got the job. And I find it so funny. You know, when people were talking about the Vikings, and, you know, I was making this case as well. Kevin O'Connell, he kind of had the personnel excuse for not being able to run the football. I didn't love the Vikings running backs over the last 3 seasons. Obviously didn't love the Vikings interior offensive line. But now you got the interior offensive line, and now you got Jordan Mason running his tail off, and truly that, like, bell cow back where he is just weighing on these defenders. He's leaning on them. He's falling forward. You don't want to tackle this guy. And plus, my favorite stat when evaluating running backs, you knew Jordan Mason was going to be up here. The rushing yards over expected leaders from Week 1, give credit to Travis Etienne, a ridiculous plus 69, but you had Derrick Henry at plus 54, Bill Krosky-Merritt with a plus 39, Breece Hall, comeback year for Breece Hall, plus 28, and then right there at number 5, Jordan Mason. Got 15 more rushing yards over expected from the Week 1 performance, and I don't even think this is a hot take here anymore. I thought it was when ESPN put out a bold prediction saying Mason's going to run for over 1,100 yards. I think he's for sure going to run for over 1,000. And I think he is going to be the identity for the Vikings offense. Like, if you guys have this guy in fantasy football, it's only going to go up from here. I think that was the baseline last night of just 15 carries, 68 yards. I could see this guy having a couple of multiple touchdown games as well, just because of how good he is in short yarded situations. And he was running his tail off. He's running behind a great interior offensive line, and I think he's going to be just that identity for this offense. So shout out to 27. I've been the biggest Jordan Mason stan if you guys have been watching this show. I thought he passed the eye test. He passed the advanced analytics test, and he looked great in his first game with the Minnesota Vikings. So let's close today's show out with this. Show Jordan Mason some love. Type his jersey number. Type those 27s down below. And we'll see you guys next time. As always, Skol Vikes.